Okay, so turn 6 it is, and practically in the middle of the game. So let's make a quick summary of what we have been seeing so far to help new players understand some strategic nuances of the game. So early on, the Allied Navy has been heavily hammered, totally reduced to the levels of extinction. And therefore we have not been seeing a lot of action here and here, so we have so far been missing the beautiful part of combining many activations to possible use these long range bombers and attack the big stacks of Japanese units, rendering them unable to help elsewhere, while in turn landing onto islands and making some good amphibious landing operations and seeing some bloody invasions in order to secure progress of war. Another reason we have not been seeing much action here is this so much hampering inter-service rivalry. So with this rivalry in place, achieving a progress of war has been much more difficult than normally. Thankfully, we have managed to combine the forces of our small Anzac with the Australians occupying Amboina, and the remaining 3 of our required progress of war was achieved by the brave Siak British. So we have been able to sweep over Rangoon and also expand our grasp onto Phnom Penh and Hue. So we are still alive, mostly thanks to the British. The most beautiful feature of which is that they kind of ignore inter-service rivalry because they are working on Chinese and British and Australian units and Indian ones, and they can also combine those with US Army units. So no inter-service rivalry effect for here. And a last note is that now that we have entered 1943, the Americans have a small boost, which is a +1 on the air-naval combat part, if any US air or carrier units are present. As you see, there are next to no US carriers on the map. There's a decent lot of US air units, however. But so far these have not ended up making any difference, just saying. In 1944 the boost will be much bigger with +3. So let's hope we can first of all make it there and utilize that bonus. Another note going towards the late game, mid to late stages of the game, is that at some point the Allies should find a way to win this war. And it has to be again either blockading Japan fully, which is out of the question now. With our navy so much reduced, we can't possibly hope by the end of turn 10 at the latest, hope to have landed in all islands surrounding Japan and possibly placing our zones of influence all around. So this is not the game of blockading Japan. There is also the part of strategically bombing Japan and hoping to have them play Tojo Resigns and playing Soviets invade Manchuria then, and securing all the rest of resources on the map to make Japan surrender because of no resources and strategic bombing. But I think if Tojo Resigns is played right now, we will be doomed anyway, so no real chance for that to happen anytime soon. And the third way is invading Japan itself. Now there's some good news regarding that. Good news is that although the Japanese navy is much unscathed all over the map, and it will hamper our progress severely, and they've got a decent lot of air forces as well, and will have a lot of reinforcements coming their way. The good news is that we have managed to severely hammer their infantry forces as well. So they're already at just 5 Japanese divisions remaining, which means 5 reinforcements. They have next to no infantry units around here, so we might be able to make a further progress towards here. And if we exclude the reinforcements that they are going to be receiving for the rest of the game, which is these infantry units, of course, and that's about it. Then, without infantry, when the time comes that we attempt to invade Japan, they will not have that overwhelming amount of defensive garrisons, so maybe we can make a comparatively easier landing onto Japan when the time comes. So with that in mind, let's continue and see how turn 6 played out. Okay, just fixed the Chinese units that should reinforce us a turn later. So let's check for our war in Europe for this long-range bomber, which will be further postponed. Why not? So let's place our reinforcements first. We have some delayed reinforcements. And now placing our turn's reinforcements, which were delayed from the previous turn. In which case we got this long-range bomber, as well as these units, so not something very big. Note that the only one unit eligible to be sent to Europe among those would have to be Sangamon, but we rolled good for that, because this is a CVE unit. So San Jacinto, or San Jacinto, if we're trying to be a bit Spanish, is placed onto Hollandia. Then we get Massachusetts. Now onto the Japanese reinforcements. Divisions are further reduced to 4 and then to 3 for 2 ground steps. And he's bringing back the Koreans onto Bangkok, as well as this strong Japanese army returning to Surabaya. After our failure to land here earlier on, now this will be much harder to do so. So basically these were the replacements, but we do have some reinforcements first for the Japanese, which is these ones that we are resolving, 3 air units. So one goes here, and one goes here, and the other one goes here to defend the CVI somewhat. So replacements are already done for the Japanese, and let's go for ours. So as for our naval replacements, which we have 2 on turn 6, because this is the 1 US naval plus the one that we have saved from Hawaii. We've got our Wasp returning to Darwin, and also our Indomitable returning to Rangoon, which is this one. Because, on turns 6, 9 and 12, I'm reminding we have the Allied naval replacements as well. So that's it for now. And I placed Indomitable here in the hopes of, making some crazy amphibious landing as we had discussed previously. Like landing onto here, maybe, Jitra, or possibly Kuala Lumpur, for which we would need Indomitable to place some zone of influence, or even Kota Bharu, who knows. It appears in the end I decided against that and flipped Warspite to full strength at Darwin. And also with our second US replacements we're returning Mississippi onto Darwin. There's a long way to go before we finally manage to refit our American Navy. As for ground replacements, we've got the New Zealand Division restored to full strength, and as for air replacement, we've got the Siak Air at Rangoon restored to full strength. We have 5 air replacements. This is the second ground replacement. Okay. So it appears these are our casualties so far, and these are the Japanese ones. So all of our air forces are back to full strength, but we are deep into inter-service rivalry, too deep to consider using those in conjunction with our navy. So who knows if this will matter. We've got this one to replace as well, which I guess we should be remembering later on. And then we've got the sub-roll, in which case we need a 6 or less to reduce the Japanese hand and amphibious shipping points further. And the 6 is just enough, so they're losing 1 amphibious shipping point. And he's gaining 2 passes actually, because as we have noted, he's only got 12 Japanese resources now, which means 6 cards. And this is further reduced by our submarines, which means 5 cards, so 2 passes so far. Now, things start becoming critical for Japanese when their hand drops below the 5 plus 2 passes, when it drops to 4 hand plus 2 passes, which means 6 card plays total, with the allies having 7 cards total to play. And in that case, the Americans can make a lot of destructive surprise attacks late in the turn. So we've got a little more way to go until we can possibly reach that point, but good news is that with only 5 cards, chances are reduced that they draw Tokyo Rose or Tojo Resigns to finish off our last remnants of political will. Let's hope this does not happen. So we're drawing a 7-card allied hand, and let's try to see what we do in this turn. Okay, so in this turn we've got Operation Squarepeg for a small surprise. We've got Doolittle Raid, which is really cool because it increases our political will by 1, and this might be precisely what we need right now to save our political will situation. The rest could safely be called trash, because we've got a 1 operation card which might be a submarine attack to reduce Japanese, okay. And we've also got another submarine attack. Okay, these may be some steps inflicted to the Japanese Navy, but they can't really help us achieve much political will right now. We've got also Halsey replacing Ghormley, which I don't think will matter, since we are far away from anywhere close to the action, so as to possibly place Halsey somewhere around Japan and possibly attack Japan really soon. So possibly this can be used as a small operations card to achieve some level of surprise. Now, we've got some logistic value out of Typhoon Task Force and Tornado Task Force. Let's see if we can make any good use of those. Importantly enough, we have no future offensive cards, so the Japanese will have up to 2 card plays for themselves at the end of the turn. So it will be next impossible achieving our political will goals for this turn. And to be honest, I thought with Doolittle Raid in hand at this stage that it might be easier to just ignore our progress of war requirements and just save ourselves with Doolittle Raid if we are lucky, and just try to inflict some casualties to the Japanese and make our job easier for the next turn. So just chill out ourselves a bit, inflict some casualties, just rely on Doolittle Raid for progress of war, or rather political will, and hopefully continue our expansion later on, in turn 7, before we finally enter 1944, where the big boost on our navy and the air forces happens. So I'm playing Operation Squarepeg as an event, so instead of saving the surprise attack for the end, which will possibly not happen because the Japanese will have the last card play, I decided to just force any possible reaction cards on the Japanese hand early on, so that we can then hopefully achieve surprises. So I decided to kinda force their interception cards, or just check whether they have an intercept card or not. So logistic value of 2 with Anzac, which means a total of 3 activations. And the surprise attack. We can use any air or naval units, but the only ground unit that possibly can be activated is the 3rd New Zealand Division, which is this one, which we fortunately have restored to full strength. So let's see what we do. We are activating Anzac, of course, as well as the division, as well as the Australian Air, and also the Washington naval unit. So all of those are attacking Kendari. And even if he reacts, there's a decent chance we can deal a fair lot of steps here. Just reminding, I don't have the bonus, I'm not enjoying the bonus of the Americans of 1943, because neither this one is an American air unit, nor this one is an American carrier. So we're just fighting at normal dice rolls. Right now Julius is reminding me that I could restore this one. Good job. Now he's drawing his 5-card Japanese hand, and let's see what he's got. Of course, we have spent 2 amphibious shipping points. He's playing his code change as an event. There's a fair lot of those in the Japanese deck, so we didn't really expect any surprise to actually happen. But we're just forcing some cards out of his hand. Bad thing is he's drawing more and more cards, increasing the chances of Tokyo Rose or Tojo Resigns to be drawn. Let's see. So he's checking to see which headquarters is in range of this battle hex, and as you can see, this is the South Seas headquarters. This is in the 40 column, so it makes sense that it can only reach all the way to column 28 with its 12 range. So yeah, this battle hex is out of South Seas range, and it is only the South HQ that can react to this actually. So he's activating the South headquarters. Okay, this is one activation. He's got a total of 3. 1 because of this efficiency and 2 for our cards OC value. So he's also activating this one in Kendari. Nagato as well. This one is leaving out of the hex. This one is getting into normal range. And Nagato is also entering. Now check what happened. We've got only one ranged unit. He's got 2 ranged units outside the hex. So first of all, assuming we deal a full strength loss factor, the first casualties have to be taken from here, and we can do that with one ranged unit. And then we can either eliminate this or eliminate Nagato. We can't touch this because this would be the second ranged unit to touch, so we lack the air parity to do that. But it doesn't really matter, since this is not a full strength unit, it cannot protect those 2 from elimination. So let's see if we manage to do the landing as well, because we have to remain with at least 1 air unit versus his air units, and with a total of more factors than his. So the attacker is rolling a 2, and the defender is also rolling a 2, which is a quarter result for both. In our case, we've got 26, so this is rounded up to 7, which is not nearly enough to inflict some damage. In his case, he's got 19 plus 10 makes 29, which is quartered and then rounded up to 8, which is again not enough to hurt us. So we are ending up with like 26 factors for me and 29 factors for him. So the amphibious landing will fail and we will have to turn back. So he's post-battle moving Nagato back and the Air Force here, and he will pass after that. So yeah, if we had the bonus of air carrier at this stage, this 2 roll would have been modified to 3, which would be a half result and victory would be ours. But alas, this was not meant to be. Mainly because I cannot combine these US Navy units with US Air units yet, because of that inter-service rivalry, you guessed that. So, we are turned back. Our New Zealand division will do an amphibious post-battle movement, actually, onto Darwin, and the rest of our units are also post-battle move. And now we expanded the first pass for the Japanese, and playing Typhoon Task Force as an event. So now we are in for some 3 logistic value if it is not Southwest Pacific, or 4 if it is Southwest Pacific. And we are activating the Central Pacific for a total of 3 logistics value plus the 3 of its efficiency rating. Let's remind ourselves of what this guy is able to do with his crippled forces. Turns out we ended up using this for operations because, it is 2 less for its intelligence value. And if using it for operations, it is 2 for the OC value, plus 3 for Central Pacific's efficiency. So a total of 5 activations instead of 6 if used as an event. So a good trade-off. However, we can only declare 1 battle hex now, because this is operations. So what we are trying to do is bring all these marine units closer to the theater of operations, so that we can actually achieve some progress of war later on by landing onto these islands, possibly. So we are also activating some guys at Guadalcanal or Bougainville. So it will be Carolina, Lexington, and these marines, plus this marine unit, and this one marine air wing from Kavieng. Let's see what we do with these. Kavieng is moved to Amboina. Our Marine Brigade has been moved to Midway, which is an amphibious landing, and we are achieving 1 progress of war, in case we can make any more out of it. Actually, this is an amphibious landing, because if you notice, there is no port here, so whether it was controlled by us or not, it will still need the expenditure of an amphibious shipping point. And now this will be our actual attack. Lexington plus Carolina will attack Kwajalein. Now this will be a preliminary naval bombardment in order to eliminate these weak Japanese units. And maybe later in the game we can make some amphibious landing here. But for now, because we can spare some carrier right now, we have another carrier on the map, so we are not losing political will. We can take some risks to possibly deal some damage and prepare our future counter attack. Now, we are also moving our brigade from Bougainville onto Darwin, so that we can also expand in those places later on. We need some small ground units here to do the job. Just reminding that I cannot really use the American units, I mean the heavier ones like these, because this will be risky if either this Marine Division or this Army Corps is eliminated, possibly during an amphibious assault. Then I lose one political will if the ground force is totally eliminated. So I would rather use these small brigades because they result in no political will loss for the US. So first progress of war done. Midway is now Allied controlled. Just fixing that, the New Zealanders will post-battle move to Biak to hopefully be closer to Yap. I think that was the plan. Maybe we can attack Yap with a 1 value card, since this is just 5 hexes away. Now let's check the Japanese reaction. In that case, they need to roll a 4 or less, because we have entered a Japanese zone of influence. They're rolling a 9, which means surprise here. And let's see if we manage to actually inflict some good surprise. We've got the +1 for 1943 because of this carrier, and the +3 for surprise. Let's see what we do. And we're rolling a 1, which again, if we look with +4 is modified to 5, so still this is a 1/2 result. We cannot ever achieve the so desired 1 times result. So half times the 16 plus 8, which is 24 halved, so a total of 12. So we can only hurt the Tenryu because this is full strength, and we cannot hurt this air unit. That's amazing. That's unbelievable stuff. So Tenryu is done, and let's see if they manage to inflict a critical onto us after all that. Nope. So all this surprise, all these preparations for nothing, just for 1 step onto Tenryu. From 4 strength it goes down to 3 strength. So post-battle movement, back to Guadalcanal or Bougainville, and back to Guadalcanal for you. So next Japanese card play to go. He's playing a major Axis victory in Europe, which means 2 levels down in 1943. So our hopes of getting some reinforcements soon are further crippled. We are now down to -4 level, which means our reinforcements will keep being delayed on rolls of 0 to 3 or 0 to 4, since we are in inter-service rivalry. Cool stuff. So Allied card play number 3. Yeah, as per my comment, he's not even in a rush to reinforce Quadzolane, since we didn't manage to eliminate that air unit and clear the area of zones of influence to possibly achieve some free progress of war. Now he's good to go. He can play War in Europe and event cards without cares. So, my turn. We are placing Halsey for operations, as we had promised. 1 OC value operations card. So, let's use our navy again. Southwest Pacific activated from Windham for a total of 3 activations, 2 for its efficiency and 1 for Halsey. So this is 1 activation, this is another activation by Washington, and this is the 3rd activation with Wasp. So I remind you, a 1 OC value card, so 5 hexes away we can move. So the target will obviously be Kendari, but we are amphibiously landing at Kepang. Now, as you may recall, we can only declare 1 battle hex, which will be this one. But this is not a battle hex, unless he rolls a special reaction on a rolls of 0 to 3. This will not be a battle hex, so this will be a free amphibious landing. So he has to both roll his special reaction and achieve an intercept result, either by a card or a further roll. And at the same time we are trying to inflict some casualties here. The bad thing is that we cannot escort this amphibious landing because we committed our units onto battle A, which is this one. But to be honest, if he manages a intercept, these units would not contribute anything. He would just be able to move some units and deny my landing, probably. So let's just try to use this battle to inflict casualties and at the same time achieve this landing by hopefully achieving a surprise. And you know, as a last note, if we manage to eliminate this one with a surprise, hopefully, then the ground is further prepared for landing at Kendari or Makassar and achieving some further progress of war. Let's see how it goes. One more amphibious shipping point to use. We have already used 3 of our 5. Now, this comment of mine means that there are some tricks that can possibly be made in such situation. So in order to get into some more advanced stuff, this carrier started at Darwin. So I could possibly have moved it somewhere around here and try to escort here. So in that case, he would not possibly be able to react with a naval movement of a ground unit, so as to place Zoe here and, you know, deny this path to a ground unit. But okay, he can possibly bring some air units here, or even if I placed the Wasp here onto Timor and supported from a distance, he could be able to react here because he's in strategic agreement and he can land with this unit escorted by this carrier. So yeah, no chance that we achieve that. So let's see his reaction. Special reaction is 4. So because the card is Halsey and he needed a 3, he will not make it to deny our landing. So as for the intel, this is 6, so again a surprise. Now let's see if this task force can achieve what the other one couldn't. So we need at least a 2 to modify that onto 6. Let's go. Yay! This is a needless critical, since this unit will be eliminated anyway. So, post-battle movement time, and second progress of war achieved. Now it turns out we have been struggling to actually achieve this progress of war by possibly occupying Makassar or Kendari or Manado or whatever. We are still fighting for this progress of war. We have 2 amphibious shipping points and the need to achieve 2 more hexes. Because why not? Let's just both achieve this progress of war and raise our political will with Doolittle raid. And actually to also force him to keep defending these hard to defend hexes. And if he keeps piling up air units, this is our strong point where we can achieve some surprises and deal some further damage to the Japanese units. So let's check, for example, if he brings more units onto Kendari. We have all these beautiful units that can attack from range without even moving, so we're not moving into his zone of influence and we are more likely to achieve surprise in this case. Let's see. He's playing the Doolittle raid Reprisal. Fun part is that it can only be played after we play the Doolittle raid, which we haven't done yet, but even so it would just regard China. And I don't think China is in any danger of falling anytime soon, especially when control of Rangoon and the Burma Road is restored. So he's trying to react by bringing more units, and he's activating Ozawa. He's got 2 activations for the OC value, plus 2 for the efficiency rating, so a total of 4 activations. So he's activating Hiei and Yamato at Nagoya, and also Soryu from Saipan. So, Soryu moving here to join battle A, and then he's bringing this unit from Hanoi to Saigon, then to Miri, and then Hiei and Yamato move closer to the theater of possible future battles. Yamato will defend this island complex, and this air unit will be closer at defending the island of Borneo. And then he's just attacking my unit at midway without having entered any zone of influence of mine. So he's hoping to reduce some strength here. And as he points out, there is no actual risk of me reacting with possibly this one here and this one here. Because, you know, this one has a range of 4. In order to attack here, it would have to either end up at midway which is not feasible because this is the battle hex itself and their units cannot do so. Or end its movement here, which is not allowed per the rules. Air Ferry can only be a stepping stone, but you cannot end your movement there. So, let's see how we react to that. This is a 9 anyway, so no reaction. If we did not have the surprise, maybe I could just bring this currently useless long-range bomber to possibly gamble on the chances of some natural 9, a critical die roll to hit Soryu. But it appears we rolled the natural 9 for Intel, so this results in surprise. However, as my comment suggests, this is a chance for my terrible hand to be fixed since he moved his naval units. I was waiting for this moment for so long, because now I can finally play the submarine attacks and possibly draw some better cards while damaging his navy. Although there is a minor detail here, which actually makes a big difference. Now, each one of these submarine attacks may result in one naval step lost for the Japanese on a roll of 0 to 7, but while this one, the archer one, can be used against active Japanese naval units, this one has to target inactive Japanese units, so it's not like I can hit Soryu with both of those. This one will hit Soryu, the active one, and this one can be used in any instance in order to target inactive naval units, so I will target other units not activated for this offensive. So in this case, I will be trying to attack Zuiho, because as we mentioned previously, this might not look very strong, but this is important for some amphibious reactions. For example, if I'm trying to land on the Kendari and bring my naval unit along, so I will try to reduce that one. And the other card will target Soryu, of course. So this is a 7, which is within range of the submarine attack, and this eliminates Zuiho. We're drawing 2 cards as bonus draws in the process. Now, resolving the combat at midway, his Soryu is rolling a 0, which is a quarter result, unable to deal any damage. And now it's time for our submarine to be resolved, which is after combat. This can be used against any active Japanese naval units after combat. So in that case, we have decided to target the strong Yamato instead of Soryu. So let's see how our submarine fares. We're rolling a 2. Now I wasn't sure if I can target Yamato or it has to be Soryu, since there were battles activated during the offensive, but it turns out it is against any active Japanese naval units. So no need for those to be in battle, so if I want I can hit the Yamato instead of Soryu. So at the end I decided in favor of attacking Yamato. So this was a good outcome. During his offensive we managed to eliminate both Zuiho and reduce Yamato. So we also managed to draw 2 bonus cards in the process, and this is his post-battle movement. His air units is post-battle move to Kendari, as we expected, and his naval units will end up here. Now, allied card play number 4. So we are now at the opposite stage of missing the 1 OP values, because these submarines did a lot of damage, but I wouldn't have minded the 1 OP values to possibly conduct some operation here with a decent chance of surprise, or here possibly. So let's see, these are our newly drawn cards, and let's see how we handle those. This Slim's Burma offensive seems so tempting because it offers a huge logistic value for the SIAC HQ, and we're also receiving the Armored Brigade, the tanks, which is a +1 die roll modifier for ground combat. So if we had drawn this card earlier on, we might have combined this with the rest of our hand to make some real good progress here and achieve some more progress here. But it appears now the best usage of it would be to possibly save it as a future offensive for a next turn and use our hand better on achieving this progress. So let's see what we are doing. So, Tornado Task Force as an event. 4 logistic value if Southwest Pacific, 3 logistic value for anything else. We are activating indeed the Southwest Pacific. Now this has got a bonus if it is played as an event, and if we are activating Southwest Pacific and we are in inter-service rivalry, we can activate either US Navy units as normal or US Army units and a maximum of 1 non-carriers naval unit. So this represents MacArthur's Navy. So despite being in a rivalry, we break the rules and activate US Army units and possibly a US naval unit, but the US naval unit cannot be a carrier, it will be a surface unit. So striking like a tornado, 6 activations, 4 for the logistic value, plus 2 for the efficiency rating. So 1 division from Guadalcanal, also Lexington, also North Carolina from Bougainville, also Massachusetts from Hollandia, San Jacinto, and US Asia from Biak. So this will be a glorious sacrifice. As I told you, these are the usual tactics in the Central Pacific. We're attacking Saipan so as to deny these units the chance to move out and affect other battles. And at the same time, we are making a battle here at Truk with Massachusetts and with San Jacinto. San Jacinto is attacking here. North Carolina is attacking Congo here. And lastly, Lexington attacks this stacked Kwajalein. As for our ground units, it will be this Marine conducting his amphibious assault here. Now look at what happens. Tornado Task Force is a 2 OC value 1. So what I have calculated is that I can reach this hex with my movement allowance of actually 10. So let's see who can react to this. I have pinned down all these units in place so they cannot react here. These and these and these and these units are also pinned down. And it would have to be possibly this unit, but as you see, this is a 36 column, and with its 10 movement allowance, it can only reach as far as 46, so this battle is safe. Then there is possibly this one air unit that could have reached the battlefield with its extended range of 5, so it can move 2 legs with its extended range of 5 and possibly attack here with its extended range and cancel my amphibious assault. But if you notice closely, it has to either move here onto Truk, because these are the airfields, Truk, and then Ponape or Eniwetok or Kusaye, but it cannot do so because this one is a battle hex. Alternatively, it could have moved to Guam and from Guam to Ponape and reach with its extended range of 5, but guess what, Ponape is also a battlefield. So this is mainly how you conduct allied offensives in the Eastern Central Pacific, let's call it. So you have to pin these units in place, and the good thing is that there's a limited number of intervening airfields for purposes of air movement. So if you create battlefields in these intervening airfields, maybe there is no chance for the Japanese to react, as happens here. So if nothing changes dramatically by the likes of a weather card, this is a guaranteed amphibious landing. So 4th amphibious shipping point being used. Now I was wondering if this one unit can cover this landing with its parenthetical range, but although Mark Herman might be watching this video and answer that question, common sense suggests this would not be possible, because this is a possible battle to be created. So this would not be able to participate in the battle with its parenthetical range. Or it might be that I can try to cover, but if a battle is declared here, this will be withdrawn of the battle because this has its range in parentheses. Anyway, so one more comment is that I would like to have used San Jacinto to cover this landing and participate in this battle. But this would require me to move it from Hollandia to, say, here. But this appears to be 1 hex too far. If you count this, this is 11 hexes and I can only move 10 hexes with my movement allowance. So, the tornado strikes. Let's see how the Japanese player reacts. He's not even rolling for the special reaction because nobody can reach there, so Intel it is. It is a 6 roll, which is barely enough to react to our Tornado Task Force card. So, South Seas is activated, of course. And we've got the Hiei, and then Shokaku, and Akagi, and the 26th AF from Truk being activated. So, this was a 4 activations reaction, because this is an efficiency range of 2, and our OC value is 2 as well. So, this one is moving out, so as to be out of reach for the Massachusetts. So, we cannot hurt this one, and we cannot eliminate Kamikaze, even if we roll a full times result, because this one is shielding Kamikaze, unless we roll a critical, which we wouldn't mind. But the whole purpose of bringing Massachusetts here was, we were expecting something like that to happen, but even on a half result, we might at least deal a step of damage to Kamikaze. Then we've got Hiei reacting to Ponape. Then Akagi is moving here with its movement allowance of 10 from the column of 34 to 45. Actually, it cannot move here, of course, but you get the point. It can move here and participate in this fight. Otherwise, from here, it would be able to cancel the amphibious landing. Then there's the Shokaku joining Battle C as well against San Jacinto. Now, Battle A, this was our actual Kamikaze attack. We're rolling a 6, which is insufficient, and he eliminates US Asia. Then we are at Battle B, Massachusetts against Kamikaze. Here we are rolling a half result, which as we said is enough to do the job. And he's rolling a quarter, which is insufficient to do any damage. Then, Battle C, this is where our carriers are fighting. Let's enjoy some carrier battles. We are rolling a full times result, which on an attack factor of 10 is only able to damage this air unit. And he's rolling a quarter, which with a total of 41 factors is again enough to damage San Jacinto, albeit not destroying this. And then we are going to Battle D, which is Carolina against Congo. We are rolling a full times result, which is cool, and he's rolling a quarter, so he's losing a step on Congo. And lastly, Battle E, which will be Lexington against Tenryu, because this is only Tenryu that we can hurt at this stage. We've got an 8, which is enough. He's rolling a full times result, which is insufficient to hurt Lexington with its defense of 12. So Tenryu is at last eliminated. We needed like 3 or 4 battles to at last manage to eliminate that small battleship or destroyer. So scratch that, Lexington is eliminated because there was Akagi in the fight as well. So he's post-battle moving Shokaku to Quadzoline to put up some good defense here. Or actually, Shokaku is moving to Samar later, and Hiei will be defending Quadzoline. He has already got his Zoe here because of this air, so he does not need the carrier. He can just bring the battleship Hiei. Now Akagi is moving back to Ulithi, and of course these marines are out of supply. Can't conduct any further operations until we can bring some air unit here and establish some zone of influence. But no need to worry, we've got more marines here to possibly throw into the fray. Okay, we're lamenting the loss of carriers, but these were some pretty good combat results all along. So we're post-battle moving to Kavieng. The good thing with Kavieng is that it is within reach of both the Central Pacific and the South Pacific headquarters. So regarding the placement of our headquarters, this is a good hex to pile up our naval units. Don't mind those Japanese, I accidentally brought those along from Battle Day. Now Operation Re as an event, or Re in Japanese, there is a bonus for that. If any brigade size ground unit is involved in a ground combat, then this ground combat will have a +1 dial modifier for the Japanese. There's a logistic value of 3 for that. So South Cities, he's trying to again decimate us in his currently strong theater, that is Pacific. And he will be trying to eliminate these threats, because these will be dangerous and annoying if we try to utilize those for amphibious landing and progress of war. So Hiei and Soryu and Akagi and Ryujo all being activated, also Yamato, and they are all attacking. So reaction time against a 6 that entered our Zoe as well, so we need an 8 or less. So we can react. No clue what we can bring here though, because this is very far from Rabel. No reaction on my part then, but he's not enjoying the +3 for surprise at least. And he's rolling a 9, so nothing really mattered regarding that. And we are rolling a 9 as well. So he will eliminate us with his tremendous amount of factors, but we will also be dealing some critical damage, which has to be assigned to the unit with the lowest defense. In this case it has to be Akagi, or sorry, no, it has to be Ryujo because of its defense of 8. So a decent trade. all our long-range bombers and marine air wings are eliminated, and Ryu just suffers a step of damage. Good thing for him that he brought these relatively weak carriers along to shield the stronger ones. And I recommend that you as the Japanese player try to do this as often as you can, bringing some weak carriers along with your strong carriers to possibly transfer hits among those and possibly shield those from such critical hit instances. So he's post-battle moving back to Kwajalein and Palau and Saipan and Ulithi. So I'm playing a card as a future offensive. As promised, this is Slim's Burma offensive, hoping to do some good progress in the CBI next turn. Congratulating Ryujo for the good job, hoping he runs out of these critical hit shields soon enough. So next Japanese card play. He will also be stalling by using his other pass. So after some heavy concentration of action earlier on in the turn, now we're both stalling and see what happens before we made our final touches, like me achieving my last required progress of war, or him trying to deny me the progress of war. So Operation Matador is in our hands, and we will be playing it before Doolittle raid. And let's see how we try to finalize our plans for this turn. Now I realize I brought those onto a ball of New Britain earlier on, so we are returning those to enemy attack. Now back to Operation Matador. We are activating Southwest Pacific from Windham. This is of course an OC offensive, so it's 2+2 activations. So let's see how we utilize those. This is Washington, this is the Marines, this is Wasp, and this is Enterprise. Amazingly, our only carriers being left alive if we exclude San Jacinto, so we can possibly risk those without losing political will. In the end, we decided against that and activated our Marine Air Wing, which is easier to be replaced. So this will be one amphibious landing here, and this will be Washington and Wasp and the Marine Air Wing. Now, after seeing his attack on Wake Island, I thought myself he was preparing himself for Colonel Tsuji, actually forgetting that Tsuji was played earlier on in the game. I thought he is eliminating my zones of influence so that he can land some units here, but it does not necessarily have to be Tsuji. It might be any other Japanese card that can reach here and hopefully achieve some surprise. So I was thinking he's trying to achieve a surprise by landing possibly here and eliminating my ground units and denying me the hardly earned progress of war, or possibly here. So let's see what is coming our way. So he's trying that special reaction for Menado, and in that case he needs a 4 because it is 2 plus the 2 for entering his zone of influence. So he's rolling a 1 and he can specially react. Let's see if he achieves the intercept or not though. And he's rolling a 3, so he can indeed react to our surprise. We have forgotten to add the previous progress of war for Wotye. So thanks to Wotye and Midway, and I think this was Kepang. I think we are at 3 progress of war hexes right now. And hopefully this was intended to be our 4th hex. But alas, this was not meant to be, because he rolled within intel range for both the reaction roll and the special reaction roll. So he will be able to decimate this unit and deny our amphibious landing. So we are doomed in terms of progress of war. We will lose 1 political will for not achieving our progress of war. So South Seas is activated, because this battle is indeed within its range. Note that if this had not been declared as a battle hex for special reaction, this one battle hex will be out of range of the South Seas HQ, so he would only be able to react with the South HQ. So now he's activating all hell of the Japanese Navy. Shokaku will be denying our amphibious landing. Our unit will be probably post-battle moved here. And now let's go for the battle. He has the air unit. I have the Marine Air Wing, plus Washington, plus Wasp. We are rolling a 2, which is modified to 3 at last. And he's rolling a 5, so a half times result for both of us. We've got 24 plus 18 makes 32. And he's got 8. He cannot do anything, but we, with our 32, can deal 1 step of damage because this is halved to 16. Now, 2 notes. he forgot that our dial is modified, so we can indeed achieve this result. And second, with one card in our hand, he supposes that's it, we have lost our political will due to failing the progress of war. So what can we possibly do without ground units, because we're out of amphibious shipping points? So who knows, he does not know we are holding Doolittle raids, so he will still play his card, which is a carrier conversion as an event. This is the Japanese naval replacements event. He receives 3 naval replacements to be used either instantly or be saved as future naval replacement. And he's restoring the Yamato, which is at Palau Islands. And he will be saving 2 naval replacements, which is going to make our task even harder in the future. And now, with our last card play, we are correcting him in the air naval combat result with the carrier bonus. We deal 1 step of damage. And now to the important part. We have been struggling to make this progress of war for so long and have consistently been unlucky with the intel rolls. So after not managing to do that, we shall use this ace up our sleeves, which is Doolittle raid. So this is one of the 2 cards that allow the US political will. So we are using that, and hopefully he will not draw the Japanese political will cards anytime soon. So we are raising political will here, and we will lose 1 more. So ideally I wanted to play it in response to a Tojo-like card, so we would like him to first play Tojo to reduce our political will by 2, and then we play that to further reduce it to 1, and at the same time achieve our progress of war so that we get Tojo out of the equation. But anyway, this was not meant to be. So our war will go on. We are still holding by the skin of our teeth, unless he's holding a Tokyo Rose or Tojo as a last card. But it appears he had Operation Ichi-Go. Now Ichi-Go will be played as Operation, a 3-0 C-value card, because this is no time for China. Or wait, he's using it as an event. So it is unlikely that he will be able to conduct any kind of China offensive operations, but at least he's trying to reduce China by events. Who knows, this might happen. Or if it does not happen, it might at least draw some attention on our part to try to stabilize China and lose some cards that would otherwise be used in other fronts. So end of turn. We've got some attrition here for those Marines. Political will is set to 1 for failure of progress of war. And we are on to turn 7, the last turn of 1943, which means our strong naval reinforcements, the Essex, are starting to come along. So with all these units, this will be a proper refitting. Maybe with this navy, at last we can put down some real fight. We get 1 more amphibious shipping point, and things will get interesting, indeed. So that's it for turn 6. See you on turn 7. Let me know what you think of this game so far, this turn, these operations. Bye.